Hello, this is Harris Zeiler. I'm broadcasting from my coronavirus-free compound, and this is the third discussion board forum entry for History 711, Dr. Turchin's History of Western Freedoms graduate course. I'd like to say that I rather enjoyed the thoughtful lecture by Dr. Livingston, who brought up the idea of Aristotle, who said that there should be a rather small government to allow for democracy, and then later Hobbes, who thought there would be chaos unless there was a strong centralized government. Now, first, Aristotle, he thought that a size of a city-state, say Athens, for example, would be the size example, maybe a small country, a city-state, and that would be the extent of a democracy. However, later, during the late Middle Ages, Hobbes thought that life would be nasty, brutish, and short, and that everybody would fall into chaos unless there was a strong, centralized government that would allow the rules to be set in stone, and that by these rules being enforced harshly even at point, that they would be able to allow people to have a certain level of liberty, even if most of the government control was in the hands of the government. Otherwise, there would be chaos, and it would be pretty harsh life. Not too much after Hobbes, John Locke, who proposed a modern style separation of powers with a legislative branch and an executive who would enforce the laws, and each one had an enumerated power, and therefore people would be allowed to live in freedom because tyranny would not rise up because no one function of government would be too powerful. However, it was the American Revolution, and therefore and then after the American Constitution, that I think proved a different tact. The founding fathers all knew of the ancient Greeks. They knew of Hobbes. They were well read. They also knew of Locke, of course, and they had a new and may I say brilliant system that would allow a large country, even in those days of America. The 13 colonies were already much larger than England and Great Britain. So how did they propose to change the rules of the game, having a republic that could be both quite large and protect the individual rights of citizens, giving them the maximum amount of individual liberty? That's a good question. And the answer is that we have a federal system. And as long as everybody obeys the rules written down very clearly in a thing called the Constitution, then we would be able to function as a rational republic, a representative republic. Now, the brilliant founding forefathers, Madison specifically and others, thought of this great system whereby the local government can be the most responsive, making Aristotle very happy that we can have local votes on things, and the local governments, the size of a city-state or a town or a township, can have a local control of many of the aspects and functions of local life. However, there is a need sometimes for a more regional approach. Right? So instead of a immediate direct democracy where the township would get together to vote on whether or not we need to have better roads, well, then there may be something like the size of a state. And the state would be the size of a small country in Europe. And in America, these states would have regional ideas, regional controls in modern language. If Texas wants to teach about the Alamo, and people in, say, Pennsylvania want to study more about the Independence Hall, that's fine. No, it doesn't matter, right? And different states can have different approaches to their local, more regional examples of their own situations. Now, these states are connected. We are the United States. And in these United States, the enumerated powers granted in the Constitution to the federal government are things like national defense, things that the states could not do individually on their own. To raise a national army, to construct something as expensive and complicated as a navy, had to have a federal government. Now, how does this all work in today's world? Well, let's take a look at the current pandemic of the coronavirus. It comes from Wuhan, China. And this virus affected a nation. The federal government did their role by locking down the borders and tried to prevent as much of the virus coming into the country as possible from first China and then Europe. Then there was state control over things like making sure there were enough hospital beds and taking care of the health needs of their regional authorities. Right? So even some townships, not every town in America has a hospital, and therefore they had to go to state. Now, some of the states did not have the resources to project ventilators, things of that nature. And where did they go? Back up to the federal level, who appropriated a certain amount of funding to be able to construct these ventilators, which, thank God, were not needed. So the government does work, right, when they do. That's how in a modern day America, we have a federated system whereby people can have a maximum amount of individual liberty and yet still have a representative republic that is 3,000 miles wide with over 320 million people. Thank you very much. There's a lot more, but I'm already at 6 minutes and 6 minutes plus. Thank you for watching. I've really enjoyed this course, and I look forward to taking some more. Thank you very much. Have a good day.